We're going to go ahead and go over some notes that we were not able to go over because of our snow day. So if today's video is going a little too fast for you, please feel free to just pause the video, catch up in your notes, and then restart the video in order to follow along well. Alright, so this is what we need to do. If you could go to Blackboard and then go to Labs and Activities. And the unit we're in is DNA and protein. And we want to go to Notes. And we're going to go to DNA Structure Notes. If you could go ahead and open this document up in Notability, then you can go ahead and take your notes right there. Okay, so go ahead, pause the video, and open those up in Notability. Okay. Now there's a link at the top and it takes you to Learn Genetics, and there's an option to go to Tour the Basics. That's what we're going to use to do our notes on DNA structure and function today. So we'll just start here at what is DNA. And so DNA is this material that is in every single living cell that gives those cells specific structure and function. So DNA is the genetic material in every single cell in your body that gives your cells their structure and their function. In this video, we are going to be looking at the cell within an ear. Okay, so it's going to contain the exact same DNA as every other cell in your body. However, the genes that are expressed are going to be different, which is going to give the cell in your ear a different structure and function than all other cells. In animals, in eukaryotes, which means we have membrane-bound organelles, our genetic material is located within the nucleus. So the genetic material for all living things that have membrane-bound organelles is located within the nucleus. And again, this is the instruction manual. DNA is the instruction manual for all living things. Every single human, you and me, we have 46 chromosomes in our nucleus. 23 come from mom and 23 come from dad. And chromosomes are just tightly wound and well-packaged DNA. It says the instructions come from in the form of a molecule called DNA. DNA encodes the plans, like a blueprint, for building the different parts of a cell. And DNA in itself stands for, right here, deoxyribonucleic acid. So you can see D and A. So deoxyribonucleic acid is what we're talking about when we talk about DNA. And as you can see, DNA is kind of this twisted ladder, this double helix shape, and it's made up of 4 different nitrogen bases, A, T, G, and C, or we call it adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. A, adenine, will always pair with T, thymine. G, guanine, will always pair with C, cytosine. And so together, when these things are put in different orders and they pair up in different ways, then we create a different genetic code. And as we create different genetic codes, we make different genes, and different genes make different proteins. And proteins are what give us our structure and function. So if you change the code, then you would change the gene, which means you would also change the protein. It's like changing the letters in a word. If you change a letter in the word, which would be like changing the code, then you would change what that word says, and that could ultimately change the meaning of your sentence. So let's go ahead and let's take a deeper look at what a DNA molecule is structured like. So this could be my DNA molecule. As you can see, it has many different parts. Over here we have this white, black, white, black, white, black pattern. We call this our backbone. We call it the sugar and phosphate backbone. The black part represents a sugar, and the white part represents a phosphate. So we go sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, and it's going to be the same all the way through. A single sugar, phosphate, and nitrogen base make up what we call a nucleotide. So this individual right here is what we call a nucleotide. A sugar, a phosphate, and a nitrogen base. Different nucleotides are strung together to make a DNA molecule. And we, as I said before, we always have adenine, which we're going to represent with green, paired with cytosine, which we're going to represent with yellow, or guanine, which we'll represent with this orange, and cytosine, which we're going to represent with this blue, always paired together as well. And so we would see the exact same pairings all the way through our DNA molecule. And you can see this white piece in here as well. That is representing a hydrogen bond. So my DNA molecules, my nucleotides, are held together by hydrogen bonds. So if we had to draw a simple model of this, and we can do this on the board, I would have a sugar, phosphate backbone on either side. Sugar, phosphate. And my sugars would be bound to a base. So let's say this is A and this is G. And those are paired with their corresponding partner. So A always pairs with T, thymine, and G always pairs with C, cytosine. And my nucleotides are held together by hydrogen bonds. So that's what holds the two strands of our DNA molecule together. DNA molecules are thousands and thousands of nitrogen bases long, and so this would continue in either direction for a long, long time. And in order to fit that in our cell, DNA is what we call a double helix or a twisted ladder, and so it kind of coils up into this form here. And when it coils up and it condenses down, then we call that a nitrogen or a chromosome. Okay. So again, we have a sugar phosphate backbone. We have the nitrogen bases, adenine, which pairs with thymine, and guanine, which pairs with cytosine, and a single sugar, phosphate, and nitrogen base is what we call a nucleotide. If you go to the next page of your notes, you'll see that there is a piece where it asks you to go ahead and pair up the proper nitrogen bases with A, T, C, G, T, A, and G, C. If you could go ahead and do that at this time really quickly, that would be great. And what you should end up with is this here: A to T, T to A, C to G, G to C, T to A to T, G to C, and C to G. Remember that the DNA strand is made up of nucleotides, and together these things add up to make a gene, which is a string of these amino acids. And when put together, these make words, which are like proteins. And the role of a protein in the cell is to give that cell its structure and its function. Okay, so now we're done with the first section of our notes, and we are going to move on to what is a gene, which you'll get in the next video.